Grab a brew and tune in to the High Ticket Review. In each episode, you'll get a rewind of the misses, makes, and definitely magic of live high-ticket sales calls from a veteran sales consultant, Will DeShazo, who has held more than 15,000 calls and trained multiple 8-figure companies, all while developing a simple winning framework to close your next call. From objection handling,
I'm gonna need to sleep on this,
to on-call close techniques, the High Ticket Review has you covered up in talk tracks that convert to dollars. Now, on to today's training.
All right, on today's episode, we're going to be discussing one of the most overlooked, underused, yet powerful tools in the entire high-ticket sales world. And this one, I'm not going to lie, this one took me a long time to figure out, but also to put into practice. And that doesn't mean that it was hard. It's actually wildly simple. It's not a script. It's not a closing line. It's not even a specific type of question. It's what I call echoing. The subtle art of just repeating someone else's words. Not to manipulate, but for them to hear themselves. Sometimes for the very first time, they're hearing themselves. They're stating the problem or what's going on. And this one skill, it's really not even a skill, y'all. This is simple stuff. But this alone can change how your calls feel. It'll allow your clients and your prospects to open up much further and help you to build legitimate trust in minutes. Not multiple calls, days, weeks, months, literally in minutes. So let's dive into this echo strategy, right? I was on a call once with someone. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you see what Will got a haircut. He's got short hair. What's going on? So for all my YouTube followers out there, all 5 of you, yeah, I got a haircut. It's rare. Okay, but yes. So that was a total side note riff. Hey, I was on a call with somebody once, and I think probably as I sip my coffee for 20 minutes straight. It might be a stretch, but he was just circling the same exact problem. Everything kept coming back to the same exact problem. The questions that I asked kept leading him to say something along the lines of, I'm just stuck. I don't know what I should even be doing. I'm doing things, but nothing is moving me forward. And I could tell he was totally, completely, utterly in his head. You might jump straight to strategy when that happens. Well, let's map this thing out. Let's really get down to the bottom of this. Or, hey, have you tried this angle? Have you tried this strategy? You know, that's what we do as coaches. But these are not your clients yet. They are not here to solve something yet. They are here to discover something today, something worth solving. See, that's a big difference. So something in me said, stop fixing it. I took a breath and I said one word. You're stuck? Well, that's 2 words, but the main word being stuck. That's it. See, I just mirrored his words back to him. And he exhaled, and his shoulders kind of went down a little bit, and you could see his relief. You could feel it. And he said, yeah, that's exactly how it feels. It feels like I'm stuck. And that opened up an entire conversation about what was really going on. And that's when I realized something very simple, but something extremely profound in this world, which is that people don't need some perfect answer. They don't need some complex strategy or even simple strategy to fix things on these conversations. They need mirrors. And that's the heartbeat of today's episode, okay? How echoing, how showing a mirror to their statements, to their phrases, especially these emotional trigger words, it actually builds instant credibility and instant trust. And that's a really big deal in a short sales cycle world that we live in as high-ticket coaches. So most people think that listening is just like being quiet while someone else talks. You know, actually, that's called passive listening. And we actually just went through an entire study. One of our senior pastors did a study at our church inside of our Sunday school about gospel listening. It's kind of amazing how similar it is to what I train on here with sales and being a seasoned salesperson. Legit listening is reflective listening. It's not even reactive, it's reflective listening. You see, you're engaging. You're not just hearing the content, but you're searching for the context of what they're saying. When you echo someone's words back, even if it's just a line or two, or even a single word, like the example that I shared earlier, you send their nervous system a message. It's actually kind of crazy how this all works. You're safe. You're seen. I'm with you. You can open up further. That's literally what happens. It's called neural mirroring. I'm no, neurologist or brain, dump guy. Like I know all of that exists, but I'm not deep into that world. But neural mirroring is the same part of your brain that lights up when you talk about your pain. It also lights up when someone mirrors it back accurately. It says this person's listening to me. And that's why people often feel like they're finally understood. People leave conversations with me saying, man, I've never been felt so deeply. See, their body relaxes for maybe sometimes the very first time. Scripts are logic, but mirroring appeals to instinctual attitudes of people, right? Like, this is getting back to like human roots. And by the way, logic is no bueno. We don't make purchasing decisions on these conversations logically. It's when we feel safe. We buy when we feel safe. And we believe the truth about ourselves and what's actually happening today. So let's make this a little bit more practical. I train on 3 steps to use mirroring really naturally. It's 3 E's: echo, expand, and elicit. Echo, expand, and elicit. So step 1 is echoing. It's just as simple as repeating the word or the short phrase kind of right back to them. If the prospect says, I don't have time, then you say something along the lines of, time? How do you mean you don't have time? That's it. So you're telling me, well, what's going on that gives you not time? No. Just a reflection. Allow them to reflect. This is self-discovery. Expand. So after you echo, just give it some space. Allow them to roll a little bit here. Hey, tell me more about that. What about time feels tight right now? And then they're going to start to process this out loud. That is what you're looking for. That is the gold. And that will allow you to allow them to elicit what's actually going on, to bubble up, to draw out what's underneath the surface of not having enough time. So maybe another, second, third, fourth level question is, well, man, what happens if you never do make the time? That's when the real emotion surfaces, the truth behind the words, the feeling behind the logic. And that's where decisions actually start to form very naturally. So this is kind of what this can sound like in real life. Let's start maybe with a scripted version, like not so good version of a scripted seller, right? So the prospect would say something along the lines of, hey, if I'm being honest, I've just been overwhelmed lately, and it feels like I can't keep up. Maybe you've heard that. So a scripted seller would be like, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity. Hey, a lot of my clients feel that way. That's okay. That's exactly why my program focuses on accountability. And then you start rattling off features of your program. And the prospect stops talking. And they actually never get to their emotions. And they actually never process what's going on. See, this is just fake empathy. Like, that's not cool. It sounds like it's connection, but really it's complete redirection into like what you're bringing to the table for them. This conversation, I'm going to say it again, gospel listening, it's not about you. Put yourself aside. This is not about you. This is about your prospect. Okay? So a legitimate coach, one who is harnessing their superpower on these calls of being a coach, would say something along the lines of, oh, overwhelmed? And your prospect would say, yeah, I'm juggling so many things. I don't even know what's the most important anymore. Coach might say, so it sounds like it's not that you don't want to focus on this. You do, but it's that you just can't breathe long enough to figure out what matters the most. Is that right? Exactly. See, that right there is when real connection happens. This is the very beginning of continuing deeper down into this conversation that leads them into the reality of they need change. When people can hear themselves more clearly through you, trust comes right behind it. They don't feel sold, they feel seen. That is what we are going for here. Now, too much of this, too much seasoning, too much echoing, you can overdo the mirroring and it can ruin the flavor of the conversation. Now, remember, we want to have tasteful conversations, right? There's probably two or three, let's say there's definitely three ways people get this wrong. One of them is what I call parroting. You don't want to be a parrot. That's when you just repeat everything back mechanically. So you're overwhelmed, so you're frustrated. This is like super robotic. It's a customer service rep. You're reading through flashcards on your desk. No. So one thing is like, don't have such a harsh question mark at the end. Just let your echo land. Don't interrogate someone. Just have a curious tone. And sure, you can end a curious tone with a question mark. Oh, so you're overwhelmed? Versus, so you're overwhelmed? You know, because that can start to get very parody. You're just repeating back. Don't do that. Also, don't repeat back every single thing. We're only looking for kind of emotional triggers here that we would then repeat back to our prospect, okay? The second is just jumping to a solution way too fast. You start to problem solve way too fast. The second someone shares that they're stuck, you're like, oh, you're stuck? I got it. Hey, that's exactly why I have a 12-week framework that helps to get you unstuck. That's exactly why I've built stop. That's not listening. That's hijacking the entire conversation. So stay curious longer. Don't jump to your answers. Let their sentence breathe. Don't fill it with yours. Let them continue to talk. And the way that you can do that is continuing to ask questions about the way that they are feeling, about what it is that they are sharing. A third mistake is, the reality is, a lot of times this can come across as a little bit corny or phony or even mimicky. This is different than the parrot because, you know, a lot of people in sales say to match the energy, to match the tone. If someone's sad and you act sad, but you're not sad, that is going to come across as you mimicking or mocking that person. So don't mirror the emotion necessarily. Be you on these conversations, but do mirror the content. Okay. You're reflecting back the truth here, right? So they can see themselves clearly, sometimes for the first time. What you don't want to do is mimic them, all right? And all of a sudden you are sad. Now, if you sincerely are sad and you can relate because you've been there and you've been in their shoes, that is different. But you don't just need to mirror their emotion to mirror their emotion, okay? You know, and like one of the most popular, call them influencers, Jesus, the person with the most reach, the person with the what I like to say, the most empathy ever, probably arguably one of the best coaches and teachers in the world that's ever walked the earth. He wasn't gathering data. He was reflecting hearts, right? Who do you say that I am? That is a searching statement. Like that is like, oh, man, I never thought about that. And I'm going to look in. I'm going to look deep, right? He's always mirroring back truth that his disciples or even just people, normal everyday people, were holding. So they could hear it and they could own it and they could step into it. And that was true self-discovery that led people to conviction to follow him, to take up their cross and to follow him. It's not convincing. It's conviction. It's clarifying. That's what we're doing in these discovery calls as well, people. No, it doesn't hold the weight of picking up your cross and carrying Jesus, of course, but it's similar. We are following him in these conversations. It's not talking people into decisions, okay? So here's my challenge for you this week as we wrap the episode. Pick one call, pick a sales call, pick a discovery call, even a conversation with your spouse, actually, or a conversation with a friend. Or maybe you had coffee with someone and there were gospel listening moments involved and they came to you to open about something that was going on in their life. Instead of listening to respond to them, instead of as they're talking, you're coming up with what to say next and how to guide them and how to give them an answer. Instead of any of that, just echo. When they finish a sentence, repeat one of the words or a key phrase that actually mattered, that was emotional to them, and then wait. Don't share advice. Don't give solutions. Don't relate with a me too. None of that. Just mirror back to them. Allow them to open up even further. And watch how quickly it actually happens. It's amazing to see. It's so cool to see. So much connection comes from this. It's crazy. Just saying less, actually. So much connection comes from just saying less. All right? So use this on your next call. Sprinkle it on a conversation that you have with someone. Have these gospel conversations, this gospel listening. It's a really big deal. And I hope to see you on the next episode. Bye, my friends.
All right, you just listened to the High Ticket Review. And by the way, this podcast is completely supported by you, a high ticket closer, business owner, or salesperson. So make sure to smash that subscribe button to close higher dollar deals faster. And don't forget, go implement what you heard today. Opportunity is right around the bend on the other end of every single call that you take. See you next time.